so North Beach Games have been kind enough to provide me with a key for the new Return to Moria. And as a big Lord of the Rings fan, I couldn't be happier to take a look at the newest Middle-earth based project. I think it's fair to say it's not been a fantastic year for Lord of the Rings games, but Return to Moria had my attention the second I heard the premise. How has a dwarf-focused survival game not been set in this universe before? The concept of RTM seems to be solely based on the delve too greedily and too deep quote from the Fellowship of the Ring, which is just perfect for a survival game. The game centers on you and up to 7 other dwarfs taking on procedurally generated sections of Moria, while also contending with declining food, temperature, and sleep meters. Most interestingly though, are Moria's somewhat unique additions to the survival genre, noise, and light levels. Delve too greedily, and you risk disturbing the horrors that still lurk in Moria's abandoned halls, which is what leads to a lot of the game's more exciting moments. The primary goal of you and your dwarf friends is to collect minerals to craft better tools or weapons, as well as build new or repair old structures. So the decision is, do you call it quits and return to your makeshift base when things start getting dicey, or do you risk falling victim to the same greed as the previous dwarven inhabitants and potentially awaken something that cannot be put back to sleep? Fighting those evil creatures takes the form of a somewhat Dark Souls-esque combat system. You lock onto enemies, use either strong or light attacks, and roll out of the way when it's their turn to take a swing. It's basic, but completely serviceable. It's also much easier when done in co-op. That's actually a sentiment that feels true for pretty much every aspect of Return to Moria. You can play the game completely solo, but you will be fighting an uphill battle the whole way. Obviously, the intent was for Return to be played as part of a group. The time it takes to harvest resources and the multiple spaces around the meal table showcase that well enough. Even the story makes this abundantly clear. Taking place after Sauron's fall, an older Gimli reaches out to dwarfs from all across Middle-earth, requesting they come and help retake the mines of Moria. It's a solid premise that gives the player purpose without requiring regular attention or reiteration. Plus, John Rhys-Davies reprising his iconic role as Gimli for the first time in 2 decades is the mithril vest on top of this already very stylish outfit.
Now, why didn't I think of that before?
Return to Moria unmistakably has a lower budget than you'd expect from a project with the Lord of the Rings IP attached, but it actually makes a lot of sense. It's a survival crafting experience made for a relatively specific audience, and considering the quality of other recent Rings media, taking a less balls-to-the-wall approach seems very appropriate, which I actually think works in its favour. Knowing its limitations has let free-range games focus on creating a simple, repeating gameplay loop above overemphasizing size and spectacle. I'm not sure if it was a purposeful choice or just a happy accident, but it's evident that the game has benefited from it. Recently, they announced the PS5 version of the game would be delayed until December, with the Xbox version not releasing until early 2024. And looking at the current state of the game, I reckon this was a very clever decision. Performance-wise, the game runs pretty decently on my crappy laptop, but there's some fairly consistent visual bugs that are likely to get ironed out fairly quickly, although if they've deemed the console versions as unready, I respect the company's decision to take responsibility and not push out a half-finished product for some quick cash. I've been having a good time with Return to Moria, and even if the developers are smartly keeping vague about where this game stands canon-wise, I am glad we finally get to see a survival game set in Tolkien's universe. I'm also really happy that of all the Lord of the Rings titles out there, this one comes closest to reminding me of playing the Hobbit game on PS2.
There you are, Bilbo.
I love that damn game, and I love the occasional aesthetic similarities Return to Moria shares with it. Return to Moria is out now, currently only on the Epic Games Store.